Next, our partner presentation is #Pure Pinellas by Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today we are thrilled to have a special guest with us that actually was inspired by one of those pop-up ads that we always hate on social media. But it was an article about a sale of a horse farm in Pinellas County. And we started digging in and looking and realizing that a lot of us don't understand the horse history of Pinellas. And so today we have Patti Gail with us. Patti moved to Pinellas with her family in the 80s. She's been involved in the equestrian world since a young child and has shown in many disciplines. She became a police officer for Pinellas Park in 2004. She started the Pinellas Park Mounted Patrol and then also helped start the St. Pete Police Department Mounted Patrol. She's one of 11 people in the world that has certification for Mounted Patrol training at Level 3, and she's an international instructor and trainer. Her family owns a farm in Pinellas Park, and they continue to train for local units. They also own an equine rehab center, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about all of that. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come, and thank you for the invite. Horses are a passion of mine, and I do a lot. I call myself kind of a liaison between the government and between the horse people, equestrians. So there's a big history. We all know JB's, the A1 Boyd, the Boot Ranch. Back in the day, that was around 1913. He had 16,000 acres. They ran a lot of horses on there. If you grew up in this area, you used to go out there. You could rent horses. You could ride them all the way up to 1998. We used to go out there. As a matter of fact, I have some of the artifacts from the Boot Ranch hanging at our farm. J.B. Starkey was another huge ranch that was a big part of Pinellas County. And that, again, the farm from J.B. Starkey, the house is actually located in Pinellas Park at one of the equestrian farms when they moved it. So that kind of built with the equestrians, and as the farms kept getting smaller, there was a lot of people who started advocating for keeping some of the trails. So a jewel that Pinellas County has that a lot of people don't realize is there's an actual network of trails that lead from Brooker Creek. You can ride your horses all through Brooker Creek. You can ride your horses through Pinellas Park. You can ride your horses all through the areas, which is something that is actually government. They take care of it, they fund it, and they keep it to where the horses can stay in the area, which then keeps your larger parcels of property in Pinellas County. We have some beautiful farms that are there. I did put some pictures up that it will show you. Which one do I grab here? This is going to be your Boot Ranch back in the day. The next one, this was actually a public shopping center, and if you look behind it was all the property that adjoined to JB up in Seminole. Because of all the property, that was 50,000 acres, but this was actually a Publix and they ran their cattle in the back, and that's where they got their meat from. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. This is another one people don't think about. You go out back, get your cattle, and come back in. So this was actually the county commissioners. I don't know if you knew this or not, but there was the Cow Pony Pleasure Club, and the county commissioners of Pinellas County sponsored that club back in the day and partnered with the 4-H group. And that was this is actually one of the patches from back then, and that the county commissioners would hand out to people. Pinellas County is one of the largest 4-H groups, and the equestrian part of 4-H funded by Gainesville is located in Pinellas County. So when we represent at state in Tampa, we have the largest group that goes. This here is one of the equestrian farms that he was talking about that was posted up. This is a 10-acre farm, $3.2 million equestrian farm. It holds 60 horses. This butts up to Tingler Farm in Pinellas Park. In 1998, Pinellas Park did the Trail Commission study, which I was on. So what we did is laid out a area map. Oh, I put this one in here especially. This was a Pinellas County sheriff, and he rode his horse, and I have more information on that, and I know Mr. Gualtieri is here. I thought I'd throw that in there. But anyway, in 1998, they started the Trail Commission study, which I was part of, and there was property, little over 65 acres, that was donated by Helen Howarth. She used to run the oil company that used to fill all the oils for people's houses in the area. So we wanted to keep it as rural as we could in there, and it's located in the center on 94th Avenue and 63rd in Pinellas Park. So 10 acres of that is actually an equestrian showgrounds. So we host equestrian shows there. They come from all over the place to show in Pinellas Park. There's 10 miles of horse trails that goes through that park, all the way to Lloyd Tingler Park. So you're in the middle there. You can go ride. You can rent horses and ride through the parks. You can see Pinellas Park, and it's something that no other city has. This is a bigger picture of the park and just shows you that entire area goes from and I don't know if you can see it really well on there, but it shows you the two parks connecting. When we made the trail system, we actually had to incorporate people's streets and houses because you can't just ride in the park and get from A to B. So we actually, if you go down 102nd Avenue, because the trails go from 118th Avenue all the way to 62nd. What we did is we took part of the streets, and you will see on the side of 102nd, if you ever drive down that one side of the sidewalk's much larger than the other side, that's designated horse trail in Pinellas Park. As you go down certain streets that were kind of winding in that, we actually made the easement as designated horse trail, so they could ride their horses. And we made it to where you couldn't plant anything in there, and that was designated to keep them out of the road. So that just shows you how extensive we went into it. Pinellas Park built, there was a big culvert in Tingler Park. You can see the culvert there. Built a bridge, one side's for people and one side's for horses to be able to go to the other side. So they actually built a bridge for that. Again, this is showing the 4-H. This is just a small show that we hosted. When it comes, we bring in over 100 horses to Pinellas Park when we host our shows the first weekend of the month. A lot of people come out just to see them because you don't get to see them unless you go to St. Pete. I'll touch on that a little bit. So everybody asks me, well, they see the horses, they see the mounted patrol units and so forth. So I train the horses for St. Pete, for Clearwater. A lot of people don't realize that Clearwater has a mounted unit. St. Pete has one. I do Tampa. I do a lot of areas. But we actually train right in the streets. So if you're in St. Pete, you're in Clearwater, you're in the parks, we utilize all of those to train the horses in. It's a great experience anytime you see them to go up and see them. This is actually the bridge, People Bridge, going to the stadium, Tropicana Field, I don't know if that's what it's still called. But anyway, we use that. We teach the horses because in case the bad guy decides to run across the footbridge, he's not getting away. We're going to chase him right over the bridge. So it's kind of interesting. But this is on the Dolly Museum. So this is a little bit of what we do with the horses. We patrol anytime if you're at the beaches, Binti Beach. We hosted the RNC. We used a lot of horses that were in there. So that gives you a little history of that. We have carriages that go along and ride. In developing all of the trails that we use, you will notice that we made special walks that go across the neighborhoods and so forth for the horses to walk on and the cars to stop and let them pass. This is something that you'll see in different areas, even up in the Booker Creek area. We have some of those. The trails were designed throughout Pinellas Park so that you don't just say, hey, here's a horse trail. They're all embedded into the trees. They go in and through. So all of them are maintained by our city parks. This is another area here. The footbridge, when you go across that. We actually use Tingler Park because I do the disaster animal relief training. So we use Pinellas Park's area also for large animal rescue, hurricanes, so forth. So if there is a hurricane that hits our area, I'm the person that the government goes to and says, okay, if all these horses get loose, where are we going to put them? There's almost 4,000 horses in Pinellas County. A lot of people don't realize that. So they all have to go somewhere if people leave them behind in that. So we coordinate Helen Howard Park specifically for that they can be housed. There's also another park in Pinellas County called Walsingham Park. It has an equestrian trail system through it and so forth. We used to have the Seminole VOAG Center, but it has been shut down, so we don't use that. Pinellas Park is now working on, they just bought a farm that we're going to turn that into a new VOAG Center. So you'll be able to have the VOAG Center there again, be able to have the kids go and see, because right now they bus them over to Tampa. So we'd like to bring that back to Pinellas. And again, these are just more of the trails that go through there in the footbridge. Oh, there's the footbridge again. But this is an ideal trail that we go through. So any time that you see the horses, a lot of people don't realize that they're here in Pinellas County. So is there any questions or?
That was great, really interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how many horses there are and the equestrians and what they do and the farms and so forth. Even Pinellas Park passed where they couldn't develop any of the property that was under 2 acres. So to try to keep a foothold with the farms.
So are you still a mounted policewoman?
I'm retired from Pinellas Park, but I still am the trainer listed for everybody. We still do those with my certification in that, so,
That's great.
thank you.
Well, I think, one, we just thank you for being here and
Thanks.
hearing some of that history, and people forget, but if you do get back through 62nd Avenue or 90th Avenue, you can still see the properties there that host the horses, and so Pinellas Park has made a commitment, and I think it's part of the special history of Pinellas County, so really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, in that area, in 16 square miles, there's just under 1,000 horses. So it's a lot of area in there.
And Commissioner Welch, that property is still available at 3.25, so.
It is still available, yes it is. It's beautiful.
Hold on just a minute. Commissioner Vaughn? And
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm curious about whether or not they still have the trails out by the solid waste facility.
They do not. A lot of the trails out there by 28th Street and so forth were shut down because you could ride from Pinellas Park through those trails and end up down in St. Pete. You could
I
go
know,
all the way to
I used to
Boyd.
do it on my horses.
Yeah, you could go all the way to Boyd Hill, and they've shut all of those down.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is. I always push for them to do the Pinellas Trail. Would be a great horse trail to do. In North Carolina, they did it through some of theirs, and I said that what a great area to be able to ride down that way. So, but yeah, they don't have those anymore.
So then, without stirring up a huge controversy, do you have any affiliation with the people who bring the horses to the beach down by the Skyway?
I know them. There's no affiliation, but I do know them. There's actually two. There's a group that comes from Sarasota and a group that comes from Pinellas Park that goes to the Skyway. So.
Commissioner?
Yeah, well, when I used to have a horse, I used to go to Lutz to ride because they had barns out there. If you're in North County, say in the East Lake area, are there places still that have barns so that you can house the horse and get to a park and ride over?
There's a lot of areas still up in there, and actually Oldsmar and Odessa area is booming with the horse farms right now. Ocala is actually opening one of the largest equestrian showgrounds in the country. And it's going to have like 7 indoor arenas. It's going, R&L Trucking owns it, so it's going to have like 7 indoor arenas. It houses 2,000 horses. So this area has actually become what they call a destination farm. So let's say you're in South Florida and you were going to show in Ocala. Then what people are doing are buying, that's part of the reason some of these farms are going up, is people are buying them because you could go show for a day and you come back to this area, stay the night, not have to motel it and so forth, and go back and forth. So we've actually become a destination area for equestrians to buy farms to lay over at.
So still, young people that want to try to do this, there's still places to train for either English or Western?
There's,
Up in-
yes.
Oh, that's great.
And that's with the shows and 4-H. It's actually starting to come back around quite
Oh,
a
that's
bit.
awesome.
Yeah, it's
Good. Well,
pretty
thank
neat
you
that
for
we stay
everything you
there.
do.
No, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
I'm starting to think I'm the only one who didn't have a horse. Mr. Eggers had a horse, Mr. Long had a horse.
I had several horses.
Good for you.
Yes, good
I
for
feel like I'm
me.
on a Seinfeld
Gosh,
episode.
I learned something new today.
Absolutely.
Sure. I didn't have a horse.
You did it?
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's what's wrong.